Hey there, Central Ohio. Thanks for joining us here on 10 TV Plus. I'm meteorologist Michael Behrens, and this is today's 10 Weather Impact Show on this beautiful Friday out there. Our temperatures a little bit warmer now that the sun has come back to the region, and we're going to get even warmer as we head into your Saturday. But don't get used to it. Don't think we're going back into a sort of above average pattern, because it's only going to be about one day where the temperatures go back up, and then they're going right back down as we head into next week. In fact, that temperature change is what's leading your Weather Impact Show headlines here today. This weekend, we're looking at kind of a tale of two different days out there. We've got the toasty weather on Saturday, and then those dropping temperatures as we head into Sunday. We're talking temperatures by next week that will be well below average, possibly even to the degree of, say, 10 plus degrees below where we should be this time of the year. It's really going to feel nice as we head into next week. As for this afternoon, plenty of sunshine across central Ohio. A few clouds hanging around, but not that many, and no chance for rain as we head throughout the day today. It's going to be a great afternoon to get out and enjoy. We kicked things off this morning much cooler out there as humidity levels continue to drop. 50s across many spots outside the cities here this morning. 62 where we started the day off in Columbus. Part of the reason those temperatures again get down into the 50s and 60s overnight is the humidity has gone down. What we're looking at right now in terms of dew points out there hanging around in the low 60s for many spots, even a few 50s still out there this afternoon. I think this will edge up just a little bit as we head into the weekend, but not enough to really make much of a difference, and it's going to go again right back down as we head toward the end of the weekend and into next week. Your next 12 hours out there looking pretty nice too. We'll see a few clouds pass by this afternoon. We'll eventually get to our high temperatures hanging around the low 80s later today. By the time we head toward this evening, if you got any plans out there, pretty comfortable as well, dropping through the 70s from about sundown through midnight, and then dropping into the 60s out there on the other side of midnight into early Saturday. Speaking of the humidity forecast out there, again, we'll hang around in the 60s as we head into this weekend. But once we get past Sunday, we really see a big drop in humidity levels going back down to 50s and even 40s territory out there. Not only is that not humid, that is going to be just about the nicest air you can feel out there. It's going to almost feel very fall-like at times next week with temperatures in the 70s and humidity levels that are quite low. Give the ACs a break, open the windows. It is going to be a gorgeous week heading toward next week. The other side of that coin, low humidity means we don't really get much chance for rain. We have that front coming through tomorrow. It's pretty much going to come through dry. There's a small chance for rain. We're calling it about 20%. But once we get on the other side of that, it is back down to goose eggs for the rest of the weekend and really most of next week. It's not going to be until we get back to some warmer air, maybe slightly more humidity by next Friday, that we get any chance for rain in the forecast. And again, that only comes back up to about a 20%. So don't expect to see much in the way of rainfall anytime soon here in central Ohio. And I know a few spots out there getting a little bit dry. We're not quite to drought territory yet, but we're getting a little closer in some spots here in Ohio, so we could use a little bit of rain. Clouds out there again this afternoon, not many of them. You'll see a few passing by, but that'll be about it. The frontal system we're watching up to our northwest, it is causing showers in Minnesota into Wisconsin, but again, not expected to do much when it gets here to central Ohio. The hour-by-hour forecast through the rest of the day today shows those clouds passing by, but again, not really expecting much more than that, and we are on to mostly clear weather as we head toward tonight. As we head into your Saturday, morning starts off pretty quiet out there. We'll watch a little bit more cloud cover build in as we head throughout the day Saturday. Again, this will come with that front eventually heading our way. You can see it passing by as we head towards Saturday evening. Again, mostly as cloud cover. If we're going to see any rain out there, this is kind of the time we're expecting to see it. Could see a pop up in the afternoon, but then with the front, we'll watch this to see if we do get any rain, but right now it's not looking to be much potential at all for that. Again, remember that forecast only about 20%. As we head into Sunday morning, that front is now gone. Wind direction shift. We're back to mostly sunny weather and much cooler temperatures as we head out of the weekend and into next week. In fact, let's take a look at what that means for you here as we head through the rest of today. Again, we'll be in the low 80s this afternoon. We'll see those temperatures push toward the mid 80s by tomorrow before that front gets here. But but then it is all downhill from there as we head toward next week. 80 Sunday, 74 Monday, even down to 73 by next Tuesday. This is definitely going to feel a little bit more fall-like with temperatures in the mornings that could even get down into the low 50s. So it's definitely going to be a big change heading toward next week. Of course, before we get there, we've got a lot of stuff going on this evening. Of course, the air show's on this afternoon, and it's 1st and 10, the return of high school football as we head toward tonight. If you are going to one of those games, we're talking mid-80s by the time you get there for the warm-up or the tailgate. Kicking off around the low 80s. We'll stay fairly warm through the beginning of the game, but by halftime, we're down into the 70s, and by the time you head home, we're talking low 70s, maybe even some 60s in those outlying counties. The temperature forecast, even beyond these 7 days where we get into that cooler pattern near the end of the forecast, is looking to stay in that below average zone. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook. This will carry us into early September. Still expected to be forecast below normal for most of the eastern half of the country, really. And that bullseye is kind of right over us here in Ohio. So expect those temperatures to stay below that average mark. And with that, we're also going to stay a little bit drier than average. We're talking below average chances for rainfall, with most of the moisture staying off toward the south and west. And that's no surprise here given the 7-day outlook showing a whole lot of sunshine, even with that 20% chance on Saturday and into Sunday. It's just not going to amount to much. We're talking a dry forecast here that is continuing at least for the next week, save for a few sprinkles or that stray pop-up. But once we get on the other side of the forecast, I'd expect that to continue at least for a little bit as well. Again, a quiet pattern settling in here as we head toward the end of summer. And speaking of getting out to enjoy the weather, like we said, there's lots going on heading into this weekend. The Columbus Air Show, that started this afternoon. The Blue Angels back in action. More than 50,000 people are expected over the next 3 days. And besides the Blue Angels, you'll see more than a dozen other planes in the air and on the ground, static displays and meet and greets all out there at this air show.
It energizes me every single time I jump in the jet, and I know it energizes our entire team when we do it.
I have a lot of family coming in for the show, and I'm really looking forward to showing them the teamwork and professionalism.
Parking lots and ground displays open at 9 each day, with the show running through Sunday. And also happening today, the start of high school football season tonight is our 1st and 10 game of the week. We'll be heading to Bishop Watterson. The defending state champions kick off their season with a huge matchup against Big Walnut. Remember, our live coverage starts today on 10 TV News at 4. You can also tune in to our radio partner 97.1 The Fan to listen live and then find post-game coverage. And of course, watch our 1st and 10 program later tonight on 10 TV News at 11. And now let's turn our attention to the latest on the tropics and Hurricane Erin. That hurricane still churning in the Atlantic, and though it remains offshore, the storm has been bringing massive waves to parts of the East Coast, including North Carolina, and has been hammering that region with dangerous surf. CBS meteorologist Rob Marciano is in Virginia Beach with the latest.
In the final weeks of summer, beaches are nearly empty as Hurricane Erin sends waves up to 16 feet high and tropical storm force winds to the northeast.
The wind is very strong. We're like both falling over. And the sand is like hitting us.
New Jersey's governor has already declared a state of emergency as the massive storm continues churning northeast, tracking parallel to the popular Jersey Shore. U.S. Coast Guard ships trained there Thursday, battling the brutal waves and winds. Just north on New York's Long Island, officials there are concerned the conditions could destroy the beaches.
We've had hurricanes when they're heading up north. There's some sort of a whiplash that sometimes comes in, and we get eroded very, very badly.
Millions of people are under coastal flood advisories up and down the eastern seaboard. In some regions, extreme surf has overtaken popular tourist spots. Tom Hansen shows us the impact on New York's Jones Beach.
Even with Erin more than 200 miles offshore, we are still feeling its impacts here at Jones Beach. Take a look behind me. This is what should be a sand walkway, but instead it has been swallowed by coastal flooding.
The North Carolina Outer Banks is cleaning up from its own coastal flooding. Massive surf topping 20 feet washed over dunes and under seaside homes, shutting down roadways. In Norfolk, Virginia, tidal flooding reached blocks into town, forcing cars to tread carefully through inundated intersections. And 20 miles away in Virginia Beach, The Williams family on vacation from New Hampshire, making the best of a bad holiday.
Right in the middle of your vacation, you got a hurricane.
Yeah, they seem to enjoy it. Although it's wavy, they got to do some boogie boarding still. A little rough for boogie boarding today, but maybe tomorrow once the sun comes out.
Well, the sun is out at least today, but these waves are still pounding the shoreline. We'll see if they open up this beach for swimming. Beaches still up and down the East Coast are closed this morning because of the rough surf and the risk for rip currents. They did find some pilings on the beach, and they're wondering if it came from this pier, so they'll have to inspect it before they open that pier, and I would bet that situations like that are happening this morning up and down the East Coast. Rob Marciano, CBS News, Virginia Beach, Virginia.
And as that storm continues to impact the East Coast, we're of course monitoring it back here in central Ohio and want to get you up to date with the latest on the storm as it sits this afternoon. A Category 1 storm heading into Friday afternoon. Winds still pretty strong, 90 miles per hour, gusting to 115. Not nearly as organized as this storm once was. In fact, while you can still see that center of circulation, any kind of real defined eye no longer a feature. As this storm tracks further to the north into those northern latitudes, it's going to continue to get pulled apart more and more, and it's going to lose that tropical nature. In fact, by later today, expected to lose those hurricane characteristics, though it will still maintain quite a bit of strong wind. In fact, you can see by Saturday morning, winds still forecast to be 85 miles per hour of gusts over 100, just no longer a tropical defined storm. Once it loses that circulation that goes to define those hurricanes, this storm eventually going to track off up toward Greenland, and you can see there even by Sunday, still a powerful storm, 90 mile per hour winds forecast, gust up to 115, and by even early next week, next Tuesday, as that storm sits up there in the North Atlantic, having winds as high as 65 miles per hour by some of those gusts. Still definitely a powerful system even as it moves away from the U.S. And of course, that's not the only thing we're tracking. There are multiple more disturbances out in the Atlantic. In fact, 3 that have potential out in the central Atlantic. This one not expected to really do much. This one further to the south, coming out of Africa, has about a 40 to 60% chance of formation in the next week. But the one we're really concerned with, kind of following behind the path of Erin here, you can see the prediction for it, though, taking it well away from the U.S. coastline, at least for now, including well away from Puerto Rico and those Leeward Islands, but it does have an 80% chance of taking on our next named storm of the season in the next 2 days, 90% over the next week. That would, of course, be our next named tropical storm this hurricane season. So far, we've had 5. This would be Fernand if it does catch a name here in the coming days. And again, tropical season just getting started. And turning now to the latest news about our environment, one of the bigger energy issues here in central Ohio has been the energy use by data centers. We reported just this week about the impact of data centers on our utilities. Data centers rely on air cooling, which requires a lot of water. Researchers estimate that 100-word artificial intelligent prompt is roughly a bottle of water in terms of the energy that it's taking and the cooling that it needs. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources believe the state's water supply can handle that growth here. ODNR says it will be monitoring water use closely and make sure what data centers use doesn't affect us at home.
We've seen trends towards much lower water usage. There's been a few projects up in the New Albany submarket that use as much water as like an office building would.
U.S. data centers used about 4.4% of the nation's electricity in 2023, and their share is expected to double or come close to tripling by 2028. In other news, a controversial solar project in Fairfield County is moving forward. The Ohio Power Sitting Board has approved the Eastern Cottontail Solar Project. 10 TV first told you about this project in January. We saw hundreds of people sitting through a public hearing to share their opinions. Developers believe it'll bring a boost to jobs in the area and generate revenue for schools. Those against the project told us it poses a threat to local farmers.
Prime farmland is obviously a resource that we can't replenish. It's something that we only have so much of. We raise corn and soybeans and wheat in this part of Ohio, and we do so because it's the most productive way to use that land.
The Eastern Cottontail Solar Project is expected to consist of solar panels that take up nearly 900 acres within Walnut Township. The project's website lists construction as starting this year, with it set to be operational by next year. And also happening this week, news that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, more commonly known as NOAA, is narrowing the capabilities and reducing the number of next-generation weather and climate satellites it plans to build and launch in the next decades. This is according to people familiar with the plans. The move comes as the Trump administration seeks to slash climate pollution rules and reduce information collected about pollution. The sources say two planned instruments, one that would measure air quality and one that would observe ocean conditions, are no longer a part of that project. That change aimed at curtailing cost and to part due to the perception that some instruments were going to be focused too much on gathering data to study climate change. Critics of the plan say it's short-sighted and the attempt to save money is at the expense of understanding the oceans and our atmosphere. And for our final story on the environment today, we're going to take a closer look at the impact of another solar project further to the south in Texas. They're not only the top oil and gas producing state in the country, but it's also among the nation's top solar energy producers. The solar farm has been a boom in the Lone Star State and has created thousands of jobs and unique opportunities. Janet Shamlian explains just not humans are the ones benefiting.
This is the best thing I've ever done.
In a dusty Texas field, Chad Rain surveys his new crop. Sheep.
Did you ever think this would be your industry?
Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I would be a shepherd.
The Rains family had farmed cotton for generations until 2 years ago, when they gave it up for good.
When did it hit you had to get out of cotton?
After about 3 or 4 years of just not making any progress, just not even breaking even every year. I mean, we were losing money and that debt was rolling over, adding to it every year. So I had to look at doing something different. I had to think outside the box.
So he became part of a growing trend, abandoning traditional farming for what's called solar grazing, renting out sheep as lawnmowers for solar farms like this one near Waco. It's one of the largest in the U.S., with more than 1 million panels, and owned by NL North America. Adam Satirakopoulos runs the site.
The sheep work when it's raining, the sheep work when it's muddy, sheep work at night.
These are your money makers.
They are.
The sheep do most of the work, keeping vegetation away from the panels, while their owners earn steady paychecks.
So this is saving the solar company a lot of money.
Yes.
And it's making you a couple of dollars.
It is. It's a good living.
Farming has always been a gamble, but the odds have gotten worse. A 2022 USDA report found more than half of small and mid-sized farms in the U.S. operated at or near a loss.
The small farmers going away. It's the big companies, the bigger farmers are the ones that can farm a little bit better based on the economies of scale.
Between low prices and small yields, Rain says if he'd grown cotton, he would have lost almost $200,000 last year. Instead, he cleared a profit of close to $300,000, grazing 6,000 sheep across 20,000 acres. A growing business he can eventually pass on to his sons.
This is sustainable?
Absolutely. One is a college graduate, one is in college, and when he graduates, he's going to come to the farm as well. And there's plenty of work for all of us.
Amid a changing landscape, making ends meet, while still staying rooted in the farmland. For Eye on America, I'm Janet Shamlian in Rysel, Texas.
And finally today, let's check out some new video into us here at 10 TV. Turning back to the impacts of Hurricane Erin. This is flooding video taken in New Jersey yesterday. It shows flooding in the West Atlantic City section of Egg Harbor Township during high tide. The video was taken from an off-road police car driving through those flooded roads, creating waves as it pushed through. You can see even though we did not get any kind of landfall from the hurricane, the impacts really did make it to some of those eastern states, especially in terms of that sort of water inundation and those waves that pushed in. High tide only making that situation worse. And just by judging from the video there, it kind of looks like I think they're using a Humvee or an old surplus military vehicle. So we're probably talking at least a foot, maybe more of water there, and definitely something you need one of those off-road vehicles to make it through safely. That is to say, if you don't have what our next video has. Also from New Jersey, This person took a kayak out on the flooded street in a coastal town during Hurricane Erin's storm surge. That video coming from Wildwood, New Jersey. Given the dangers we just saw there posted about driving through those waters in a car, if you got a boat, this might not be the worst option to make it through some of those floodwaters. The people filming the video there found it kind of hilarious. They were laughing about this guy out there in a boat, but all I gotta say is he's making his way through the waters pretty efficiently. Kind of not a bad way to get around there, especially when the storm's offshore. You're not having to deal with wind, storms, lightning, really much current out there, just a lot of water that's kind of in the way. Not a bad way to get the boat out and get some errands done if you have to make it out there and do something while that storm surge is pushing through town. And speaking of getting out to do something, well, you can have plenty of nice weather to do that as we head through the end of this week and into the weekend. Of course, though, we're not going to stop tracking it here on 10 TV. And while this may be the end of your 10 Weather Impact show, coming up later tonight, Chief Meteorologist Jerry Martz will be here to have the latest breakdown on our weekend forecast and those cool temperatures heading in next week. Until then, you can catch more online, 10tv.com. Have a great afternoon.